Should we give ourselves 5 minutes before we start, like in the previous days?
Yeah, we'll be starting soon enough. Things people are trickling in, so just morning everybody.
Is this the
Start
point where we run
soon
into
enough.
the lobby and get a muffin and some coffee?
Yeah, this is when you do your bio breaks and you get your last coffee drink, all that stuff. Exactly.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Do want to let you guys know the last 2 days have been wonderful. Some of the best. I don't know, we're remote. We can't compare it to anything, but it's really been very helpful and appreciate all your hard work.
Well, thank you. You've contributed a lot to it. Wouldn't be as helpful without you.
Very kind. Thanks.
Yeah, we're delighted.
Yeah.
When Friday rolls around, I will wake up and I'll be like, what? No Summer Institute?
I know. We won't see your smiling face, Antonia. But at the mass mentoring slides, I told people I'd share, and the BU presentation, really, really good. Good to see.
Awesome.
And frightening.
And that higher ed panel yesterday was fantastic.
Aren't they amazing?
Really,
Substantive, yeah. I mean,
It's frightening to see how our students have to learn. That's what I'm afraid of, is what the students, this remote environment, you know, I'm concerned.
it just feels like there's so much to learn this year as a student or as a coach.
Exactly. As an adult.
Give us another minute or so and then we can start the session. Making sure to record so I can send out this recording afterwards. All right, 10:05. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the third day of our Success Boston Summer Institute. For folks who haven't been part of the first two, we'll be sending out some recordings later to make sure that you're able to access all the information that was sent out. Today, we'll be focusing on some best practices and resource sharing for Success Boston coaches and advisors and folks who, direct staff workers who are part of our network. And I'll give you a brief overview of the way that today will be going. So I'll be presenting some common messages that we have been working on for a very long time with.
I didn't see one either.
Hello?
I think someone was muted.
But we'll be sharing some common messages that we have been working on for a few years as an initiative from feedback with coaches, higher ed partners on what messages you should be working with your students every month. And then we'll transition to a few breakout rooms with some of our coaches to talk about some of their best practices and approaches on how they support students. So that'll be Joel Mora from High Score Task Force, Paolo Florencio from Bottom Line, Tamika Williams from Boston Pick, and Portia Franklin from the Weston House. And then after that, we're going to transition to a Q&A with some of our higher ed liaisons. Because I know yesterday was really informative, but I think we all always have more questions about higher ed and want to get some more in-depth answers for that. And lastly, we're going to be transitioning it to the very end to some internal work with some of our coaches, recording some videos on how to support students. And it'll be very, very basic answering of questions such as like how do I log on to my student aid report on the FAFSA. So we're going to try to do some very basic, quick 1 to 2 minute video answers for some questions that could help our students and some more students with some of their issues that are going to be arising this fall and next spring to alleviate burden on coaches, but also on the students themselves. So I think that is what I got so far. And if people have questions, make sure to put them on the chat. Oh, and don't forget to introduce yourself on the chat, who you are, what organization you work with. It's always good to see the different people who are part of this. But now I'll be stopping this and I'll make sure to go onto our web page. So the all right. So I'll be sending out this link later as well with all the resources, but let's see if that, okay. Can people see that? Awesome. All right. So, all right. So our monthly messages that we've been working on for quite a while, before I even started at TBF, and when I was a coach at Hyde Square, we had been working on these with our predecessor, Eric Esteves and John Griffin. They had been collecting a lot of information and doing a lot of research on what types of supports students should get during each month. A lot of it was also differentiated on what kind of student you were supporting. So we have been trying to collect all this information into one page that isn't too burdensome, but is also easy enough to go through and has links to additional resources. Because I think one thing that everybody knows is it's every student's unique, and they each do require some differentiated support, but I think there are some general to-dos and recommendations that most, if not all, students would benefit from, especially during certain months and seasons throughout their college careers. We have some detailed information on first-year students, students taking dev courses, commuter students, and then a couple of resources that I've been making on digital learning. So for students when they're getting ready to get on a Zoom, get on their computer to learn, what kind of things that they should be doing in order to really get prepared to focus. And then a couple more things on guiding students into post-secondary after COVID. So the literal transition from high school to college. But in the summer, so right now, we are really trying to connect with students and ensure they're prepared for the fall. This is a little easier when it's not, where we're not in pandemic times, but this is usually the time where we're recruiting very heavily to support students who have been graduating from Boston Public Schools and public charters to enroll into college and to see what kind of support that we need to give them. Couple things that we really push is to make sure that if they are enrolled, to have them meet with their academic advisor, to register for classes as early as possible, complete their financial aid applications, and then check if they have been eligible for certain scholarships or grants, like the Mayor's TSCC program. For many students who are not enrolled, which are going to be a lot more than we think this year, really connecting with them and encourage them to enroll. Some of the research that I link up top has been showing that a lot of students are hesitant to enroll this fall, but to really encourage them to do so, because the benefits really outweigh the costs, and try to push them into some alternative pathways at the very least, but ensure that all two-year institutions offer early admissions, and good programs like RCC, Bunker Hill, Benjamin Franklin, and other community colleges around the state are still accepting students and are affordable and offer really great options. So there's links to some public universities and colleges there. And then some of the other ones that may seem like pretty obvious, but I think for newer coaches or for coaches who have been doing this maybe for just a year, I think these things are extremely important and can sometimes go over people's just checklists, and people don't often remember these, but reminding students that they need school supplies, that they're not going to be given books like in high school, that they're going to have to save money and put aside something to purchase those, to have transportation to school. This was more applicable when people were going to school, but even so, we will have some students who will be going on campus, like some of our higher ed partners said yesterday, especially if they're in the STEM or nursing programs where they'll be asked to be in class and in labs. Reminding students about waiving health insurance costs, so making sure that they have a health insurance plan themselves, but waiving the college one, because that'll just increase their bill. The individualized education plan, if your student had a IEP during high school, making sure that they meet with a disability office on campus. Every college will have one, and if a student needs some support to access resources, they will be the best place to do that, especially if it has to do with focusing in class, needing someone to take notes for them, or any other impairments that may cause them to not succeed, especially in this virtual world. The disability office has been working and nonstop during the summer, and they've been trying to work to make sure that students are able to succeed at home. So make sure to reach out to those offices. SAP, so Satisfactory Academic Progress. I know most people probably know about this, especially if you're in the higher ed space, but students need to keep satisfactory academic progress in order to get their financial aid from the federal government and from their colleges in order to stay enrolled. And if they don't meet this, it's a little different every campus, but it usually is you pass around 2/3 of your class and you keep about a 2.0 GPA every semester. If you don't do this for one semester, you are usually put on, again, every institution has a different term, but some sort of, not a suspension, but you are put on a sort of, forget the exact term, but they will let you know that you only have one more chance essentially to get your grades back up before you are suspended for a year and then have to take time off. So making sure that students are aware that they really do need to keep their grades up in order to advance in their college careers. And then lastly, the tuition and fees. I think this is probably the biggest topic that a lot of our students are going to be talking to us about this upcoming fall. Just budgets and how much money their families and they have available to spend on college. I think, like I said earlier, it's a really big investment, but it's probably the most important investment that they're going to be having at this time in their lives. And it has a really good payoff, especially if they go to a 2 or 4 year school. So UAspire, one of our partners in the financial aid space, has been creating some resources on how to budget for classes and has some Excel documents that people can really fill out and compare different colleges and financial aid bills. And then also link Hanover Institute's best practices in online learning for at-risk students. So this was helpfully sent over to us by Mike Dennehy from BU, who presented yesterday. And you can always click on that to get some more supports and ideas on how to support these students who you think might be falling by the wayside and how to help them out. One of the things that I would push on this is that they say that intrusive coaching and advising is extremely helpful for these students. So making sure that you will reach out to them, even if they're not responding every time, that they know someone is out there looking for them and on behind them is extremely, extremely important for them to stay on track. September, which is going to be here soon rather than later, which is always hard to think about. But the things that we really push in this semester are just finalizing class schedules and financial aid. This is usually when our transition supports spike up. So a lot of our students are coming on campus and really starting their college careers and their first semester or returning. And this is when coaches are usually the most accessed by the students, and they are doing a lot of work by helping them finalize class schedules, adding or dropping courses, making sure that they have their financial aid all set up. So it's a lot of last minute fixes, but in order to prevent some of those things, making sure that students are aware of where you're going to be coaching and when. So I know that in a virtual world, it's going to be very different, but making virtual office hours for students to sign up for is always useful. I know Calendly is a really good resource for that as well. So making sure to look at those. For newer coaches who don't know about how to access resources, making sure that you familiarize yourself with some of these on campus or with another coach or advisor to help with this. I know some of our coaches will be more than helpful to help out with this, but making sure that you talk with some of our partners to get connected with everything that each campus is providing to students is extremely important. Connecting with an academic advisor to make sure that they're meeting their course requirements for that first term. For some students, that may require taking a developmental course. For others, they are starting from with just general ed, but depending on their major and if they have already chosen a major, it's going to vary. But usually it entails intro English, intro math, and a foreign language. Again, this varies, but those are usually some of the very basic ones. Something that we definitely just added after yesterday's great presentation from higher ed, reminding students that attendance is still required even in virtual and hybrid courses. So just because you're at home doesn't mean you can just be like, oh, I'll just watch that class later. Really attending and being there while the professor and teacher is giving the course and interacting with your classmates in chat and is extremely important. It's beneficial to the students. So I think making sure that that is something that you do is really important. And then again, add drop deadlines are coming up, so making sure that students are able to modify their schedule without a financial or academic impact. It's the last chance they can do that. After this, then they will have to withdraw or do something else. And then a few other things that I've been working on. So some questions on how to connect with office hours and professors, checking work-study eligibility for students. This is going to be different, obviously, this semester, but will be applicable hopefully when we get back in person. And then financial aid, so making sure that students, if they have been taking loans out or will be taking loans out to complete their entrance counseling and MPN, their master promissory note, U Aspire has really good resources on how to help out with that.
And Juan,
yes.
can I jump in for a minute?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for putting this together. We hope this is a resource that new and veteran coaches will rely on, because I think the point you made about, well, every student is different. After 10 years of doing this, we see that there are themes that come up that new coaches can be on the lookout for, and veteran coaches might already know to expect, but in this new world of online, they might look different. And so we took all of the feedback that you've been giving us over the years and combined them with the monthly messages from the higher ed liaisons, and paired that with the apt evaluation of what we're learning. And we tried to create this summary that some of you have seen before of what the monthly messages are. But just to underline a couple of things, one is this is part of why that article from Mike Dennehy about intrusive advising is part of why we ask that at a minimum you're in touch with your students twice a month. APT has told us that frequency really matters, and I think now especially students need their coaches more than ever, as we're all navigating a world that we're uncertain about. So I think that being in regular touch at a minimum twice a month will be critically important as we go into this admittedly strange new semester. The other resource, one that I wanted to just remind folks of, is the higher ed liaisons. And we saw and heard from our higher ed partners yesterday. The higher ed liaisons are invaluable resources to you. And I know that because that's what you've told us. And so strongly urge you to participate in the monthly or whatever frequency they're happening this year, coaches meetings on the campuses that you coach on. That's where up-to-date information will be shared. That's where some of these questions that Juan is referencing about, if you're a new coach, how do you find out some of the answers? That's where you'll find them out. We do have a follow-up document that we'll send that the colleges put together around what their expectations are for coaches on their campuses. Again, for those of you who've been here a while, you've seen this before, you know what it is, but it's always helpful to have a reminder for what the campuses are looking for in you. They're very important partners. So Juan, I'm sorry to jump in, but there's so much here that I wanted to just make sure we didn't lose those key elements, even as we try to create this centralized place of what are the common challenges that students will be facing and what should coaches be on the lookout for.
Right. No, thank you for that. I think that's something that we have been trying to push as well. Like the multiple times that students need to be supported and reached out to. It's not just a once a month type of thing where that will be enough. And especially nowadays, like you said, it's going to be even more important to connect with them more often. So I can't see the chat right now, but I have been told that there has been some back and forth about youth passes this upcoming year. So I don't know, Joelle's been our leader in that space for quite a while. I don't know if you have any updates on that, Joelle? you can unmute yourself and maybe say something. I have been talking with MBTA about that, so I can talk a little bit about that as well.
No updates yet, but I will be following up with the office because I'm in constant contact with them and see what their plans are. So I'll keep everyone updated this summer.
And Juan, to respond to one more question in the chat, we will share the link to this monthly messaging document after the.
Absolutely. Yep. There's a bunch of links that I'll be sending out later. So do not worry. There's going to be this. And there's also been a few other documents I've been trying to centralize information on. So like plans for fall 2020 for the biggest college, well, not the biggest colleges, but the colleges where our students most likely attend. So that I've been updating that every so often. As news comes out, what those institutions will be doing. But in my last conversations with the MBTA, they have been saying that they will be continuing to work on the youth pass, and that the current youth pass, it will be expiring on November 1st, and the renewal process begins around mid-late September. So they're going to be, each student or card holder is what they call them, will be notified around that time to renew the process. So just make sure to have students around this time, around September, to keep an eye out for that. And I know I have not been taking questions, but if people do have questions, I'll stop after every month, I guess, and open it up to the audience if people have anything that they want to ask.
Juan, I was just going to say, since this is a living document, we can add that reminder for coaches in September to ask about the transportation and the pass. So. Absolutely.
Yeah, that is one of the best things about this, where I can always edit it, add things, take something out if it stops being relevant, which it likely is. But yeah, that's the best part about it being up to date and updatable.
Juan, Portia's follow-up question was, could you ask if there's an online process coming versus an in-process renewal for the MBTA?
I will make sure to check that out. Yep. Thank you, Portia. October, which we like to call College Month. I think we might have coined that back in the day. I don't know. Every time I look up like October Success or College Month, I Google like TBF and like Success Boston. It's like the first result. I don't know if that's just because Google knows me too much, but College Month is when we really try to connect with our partners at BPS to support students as they as they're finishing their 12th grade and figuring out where they're headed to college and how to support them. But for college students, we really push financial aid at FAFSA, since that is when it reopens for that next academic year. So the earlier they do it, the more financial aid that they'll qualify for. MassGrant Plus, if they complete it before November, which is additional funding on top of the MassGrant. UAspire has a bunch of resources for guidance that you could look at afterwards, but something that we really push for in October is getting that financial aid done as quickly as possible. And then something else that I think newer coaches would be good to guide their students on is directing your students to schedule a meeting with their academic advisor to talk about midterms, how to prepare for them, and also their degree audit to see if they're on track for graduation, especially for your students who are in their second year. And then reaching out to students about resumes, because in 2 months, it's going to be the end of the semester, and they're going to be looking for summer internships, summer jobs, trying to figure out what they're going to be doing in the spring. So really trying to work on those interview skills and soft skills that are going to be required. Even in virtual spaces, there are internships. So that'll be something that is really, really important for October.
Juan, can I go back to September for a minute?
Absolutely, yes.
I think you had something about making sure that they're aware of their bill.
I believe, yeah, the financial aid, making sure that they have, if they are taking loans out, making sure that they have those processes completed, their entrance counseling, master promissory note.
I'd like to recommend that as soon as they apply, the conversation, when they're accepted, they choose their school, the conversation about responsibility for payment is really important. And what happens often is once they get into class, if they're to drop a class, They don't realize they're still financially responsible. So I think if those conversations can start about kind of responsibility around payment, it's good to not hit them with that when they realize all of a sudden they have a balance due. So to kind of have that ongoing financial conversation.
I think that's very true. Yeah, like it's not like in high school where you can take a class and if you stop going, I mean, there are some consequences, but it's not like you're gonna have to pay
Not
for that
monetary.
class. So
Yeah,
yes, exactly. So I think it's very important and will impact you financially for the future. So thank you, Kate. That's a very good point for September. I'll make sure to add something for that. So the next ones are usually a little shorter because September and October, the beginning of the fall semester, is usually the biggest time when coaches are supporting students, but they never stop. But they're just slightly different topics and a little less in depth. November registration for spring opens up, so making sure that your students have financial aid set up for spring. Withdrawal is usually around this time, and like Kate was saying, financial and academic consequences for withdrawing. And if a student is thinking about withdrawing or if they might fail that class, talking to them about the differences between those options and what the consequences will be. And then making sure that students are prepared for finals. If they need some help connecting with tutoring, academic supports, they usually have some on campus. And if those are full, reaching out to some other of our orgs to provide some of those supports. And I'll go over December, then open it up for some questions. But December is final season, so students are going to be stressed. They're either about to be finished or starting them in this month. So reach out, give them some motivational support, but also encourage them once the semester is done, taking a breather. A lot of students usually try to fill that break with another course, or maybe they try to get a job. That's more than okay, but making sure that they do relax a little bit because their first semester is usually very, very different and a lot more stressful than they would have thought. So hoping that they're okay. And then for those disconnected students who are making sure that you are reaching out to them. Intrusive mentoring, like I was mentioning, is really the most effective way to reach out to these young folks. And if they are disconnected, try to present them opportunities for support, like what other alternative pathways or any jobs or two-year schools that are accepting students. What can they be doing for this upcoming semester and how you can help them out. I don't know if there are any questions in the chat, but if they're not, I'll just jump into January. Okay. January, so this really goes out for our Success Boston coaches, but recruiting students for the next year. It seems like every year you're like juggling supporting students, but also coaching the next class, which is our work in our life. Every month we're doing everything. January, while students are not in class the whole month, making sure that they're looking for summer term opportunities. So either classes, internships, volunteer or jobs. These are really important to flesh out the resumes, but also to expose them to new careers and opportunities to see what they're interested in. Sometimes they might get an internship. They're like, oh, I really like marketing. I want to switch my major. And if that does happen, how to support them in that space. And then recruiting for students. So we always work with Boston University College Advising Corps advisors, and we meet with them every year in March to really connect. But this is when we try to start that relationship to get the students supported as they are about to finish school. February, so students are back in class and drop deadlines are back, so making sure the students are aware of this. But staying on track to graduate is something that we are really pushing. This is the biggest impact on financial aid, on how much students are going to be spending in school. So if they are on track and take the appropriate number of classes per year, they will spend less time and less money in class and on their degree. And then encouraging students to attend office hours to really establish rapport with their professors. And I'll quickly go through these next few ones just because we're running a little late on this. March, we're going to be looking for summer internships. So there are some resources here that I can connect with. And then reminding students to fill out their taxes by April 15th. I know this year is July 15th, but April 15th to really make sure that their FAFSA is able to be completed on time. Then April is all about that FAFSA renewal by May 1st. If students have been lagging on that and not really responding to that, make sure that they do it by May 1st because the Mass Grant deadline is May 1st. The Mass Grant Plus one was in November, but the very, very last one is in May 1st. And then the last part is May. So the students are completing their semester, hopefully graduating with good completing with good grades, really giving them a lot of motivation and congrats to young folks. But encouraging them to stay engaged, taking summer courses to stay on track. If first-year students take fewer than 15 credits per term, they are not going to be on track to graduate within the 2 or 4 year plan. So if that does happen, encourage them to take a couple classes in the summer to get back on speed. But that will be it for this. I know it's a lot to go through, especially at the very beginning, but I will make sure to send this out afterwards. There's more links to how to support specific types of students and then some checklists. So I've been working on this for a while, but it's hopefully very useful. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's awesome to have all of this, the lessons we've already learned and the lessons we will be learning in one place. So thank you for taking all of the work that so many coaches put together with Eric and John, that the higher ed liaisons have been working and creating this space. This won't be the last time, coaches, you'll see this. We want you to have the link so you can be referencing it, but we'll also be adding to it. So every month, the higher ed liaisons at the campuses send us monthly messages. You probably already know this because they're the same messages that we share at the coaches meetings and the monthly on-campus meetings. But we'll take those, we'll add them as we can to this, and also in ongoing conversations with all of you. So you'll be checking in with your students twice a month. You'll be like learning, you'll be right up close to learning about what it means to do this virtually in this year. And so we'll really want to be leaning on you to understand what are the new or ongoing challenges that students are facing. So thank you, Juan, and thank you all in advance for the work that you are doing, the work that you will do. It's making a huge difference to students, and I really do believe in my soul that as we switch to online, it will be more important what you do, more important than ever. So thank you.